in 1943, they formed not a camp, a labor camp, I would say. Two German, two Germans, what they were hiding not to go to the Russian front in order. They had a factory, and they covered 1,000 Jews. This was something like Schindler, but they were not exactly like Schindler. They were not interested to save the Jews, but they were interested to save themselves, not to go to the front. But in the meantime, 1,000 Jews were saved. This was until November 1944. And the living conditions were horrible there. But the work was not hard. And we were exposed together with Gentiles. We were working with Gentiles. And whoever somebody could afford to sell something, you know, so it was not the worst. This was not the worst.
Was the labor camp, was that the last stop, or were you deported somewhere else?
The labor camp was the last stop in 1944. The Russians were coming close, and they were afraid that you know, that the Jews going to be liberated. So they decided to close. And one day we came to work, and they said, "This is it," and they took us to concentration camps. This was in 1944, the end of November. And we were never in Auschwitz, but we went into Ravensbrück. This was Germany. And this was a camp for political prisoners. And there were not crematoriums. But it was a camp where they perform experiment.
And what were the living conditions there? They must have been horrible.
Once again, we were lucky. We were sent to a block, what was the representative blocks. Whenever the Red Cross from Sweden arrived there, they took them there. You know how nice it is. Why? Because with us at camp for the first time were little children. This was the first time the children came there. So they took us in this block because they didn't have facilities for the children in different blocks. So this was not even so bad. But from there on, it was going on something different. And the work, we were like 2 miles every day. We were carrying potatoes from a cave to the kitchens. Instead of using automatic things or horses, we were the one what were in carriages taking the potatoes.
In the camps, did you hear stories about how horrible it was around in other camps since you were in the ghetto?
We had, how I told you, we were with Poles, with Gentiles, and they had all kind of informations, and they give it to us, and it was not a newspaper, but from mouth to mouth. You understand me? So we had the thing. We knew what Treblinka is. We knew whatever it was. When it was the uprising in the Warsaw Ghetto by the Jews and by the Gentiles, by Poles, we knew everything what's going on, even without a newspaper.
And did some people believe this or disbelieve this?
It was very hard to believe, but we didn't kid ourselves. People what went to Treblinka, they knew that this is it. Even they made it like we are going to another camp.
After the war, many survivors went into a period of silence. Was it like this for you?
I always talked about. I was never, whoever wanted to listen, I always talk. I didn't stop talking because it was my obligation to let everybody know.
When did you come to the United States? Why did you choose Skokie?
This was heaven. I came to, right after the war, I went to Belgium. And I was 3 years in Belgium. Then I went to Israel, and I was 8 years in Israel. It was not the fault of Israel, but Israel absorbed so many people, and there were no food there. And it was the hardest time what can be in my life. And when I came to Skokie, it was heaven. Heaven is not, I would never forget, in 1956, you people are taking everything for granted, but not me.
What's your favorite part over here, and what reminds you of how the past was, and right now, do you still remember it and reflect upon it in such a way that you did many years before?
Just last night, I had this very seldom, even though that I am talking and I am reading all the books about the Holocaust. I don't know, I'm hooked in it, but for the first time, I was dreaming that I have to hide, and how horrible it was. And I was never so happy in my life, like I woke up from this dream, and it was only a dream.
What was the situation like for you after the war?